Hello, and welcome to The Queer Gaze, a gay movie podcast dedicated to examining queer representation and issues.
We're continuing our cruising theme with writer-director Carmen Emmi's Plainclothes. If you want to hear more of the discussion, including our Chili Pepper Award, please support The Queer Gaze at patreon.com/thequeergaze.
You'll also get early access to regular main feed episodes and extra content for every single episode.
And you can follow us on social media at The Queer Gaze.
All right, Conrad, we're back to bathrooms and seedy underbellies and all sorts of other fun stuff. But it's the 90s now.
It's the 90s, it's baggy shirts, it's pastel colors. And more than anything else, it's high 8 video footage. Yes, Plainclothes. The story of Lucas, who is a police officer in the 90s who is participating as part of his day job in sting operations at a mall bathroom. Do you remember malls, Joe?
Yes, I do. They're not dead. You can still find them. They're just rare.
They're very, very rare. Yes. So that is his job. He lures men into bathrooms and gets them to expose themselves and then gets them arrested for indecent exposure, which is not a very nice thing for the police to do. But he feels especially conflicted about it because he feels as though he may have a burgeoning interest in some of these guys that he sees, especially Andrew, with whom he develops a very special relationship.
Yes.
Meanwhile, in the background, he has a very chaotic family situation, including a very angry and bullish uncle. There is no father on the scene.
No, he dies.
He has passed, yes. And we are tracking two timelines. One of them is his time as a police officer and his growing realization of his sexuality, and the other is a New Year's Eve party, I believe, with his chaotic family where everything is threatening to come out.
Yes, yeah. And at this point, the relationship with Andrew has run a kind of course. There's a mysterious letter in his pocket that disappears at one point, and he becomes very frantic to find it. And this is in part because we will come to realize that he has been using his father's name in his relationship with Andrew. So the letter is actually addressed to his deceased father, and of course, it contains insinuations of homosexuality. So we obviously don't want that to come out, except dear Lord Lucas, just come out.
You have very little patience for these tortured, closeted men.
I don't even think it's that. And folks, cards on the table, I think that Plainclothes is an enjoyable film. You know, this is a first-time feature writer-director. It's a out and proud gay man. We've got half of the equation. Russell Tovey plays Andrew, and he's out and proud and has been in innumerable queer titles. We don't know how Tom Blyth as Lucas identifies in real life, but folks will recognize him from the Hunger Games prequel. So, like, the cast is good. I like the conceit of this, but also I do get tired at times in queer media, especially of just these movies where people aren't able to reconcile with who they are. Like, I think this movie works for people of a certain generation. Like, if you were coming of age in the 90s, you remember what this was like, where you felt, especially if you were something like a police officer, a politician, you simply could not be queer and out. So you hated yourself, you had cruising as an option, but it was really fucking dangerous too.
It was, yeah. And I do think that the film is very successful in capturing the tension of that and the pressure of that. It's interesting, we've had quite a few films now with first-time writer-directors where they feel as though they have to set the drama in the past, even in this case, I believe, much further back than the director's own formative years. I mean, I believe he was alive in the 90s, but only just. I think in interviews he talks about 1997 being the moment as a child he realized he was ashamed of something about himself that he recognized. But he feels as though he has to set the drama in that era in order to be able to convey the level of pressure that he felt as an individual, even growing up after that. But I do think it's almost palpable how dangerous it feels, especially given that the main character is actively engaged in capturing and shaming people for who they are.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, I wouldn't classify this movie as a thriller because really it's about Lucas coming to realize who he is and desperately trying to prevent it from coming out until the point where he realizes this is killing me, like emotionally, sexually. It doesn't help that he finally engages in gay sex with Andrew and finds, oh, wow, I really like this. Also, I'm completely in love with this person because it's the first person I had sex with, or the first person I was honest about my feelings with. So who hasn't been there, right? Where you're just like, oh man, this person wasn't even all that. And yet got a taste of that D and my life entirely changed. And I like this as a drama about Lucas realizing what is truly important and getting him to that moment of realization. I just also can't pretend like this is a story that feels entirely fresh. Like, I think especially without the time period, this movie would feel pretty cliche to me.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a movie that wouldn't have been made in the 90s, so I guess it fills
No.
that hole in some respect. It sort of captures the flavor of the 90s without the rose-tinted nostalgia about the 90s.
Yeah.
It captures it in a way that makes it look unpleasant.
Yeah, this 90s version looks like shit. You don't
Yeah.
want to go back to 1997 because it kind of seems like a terrible time to be gay.
Yes, absolutely. And also, not a great time for clothes and hairstyles
No.
either.
I mean, we should be clear. When the clothes come off of both of these actors, you won't have an issue. So, yeah, the clothes are drab, but that was also the 90s.
Yes. The thing that I do enjoy about this is the relationship. I do buy these two characters,
Oh, yeah.
Lucas and Andrew. The thing I find interesting about Andrew, I won't say too much about his background until we get to the spoilery section, but he is, of course, as any other man in this, gay man in this period, he is under an awful lot of pressure. What's interesting about him is the way that not only is, as an older man, is he playing the more sage, wise person, but it's just the way that he has come to accept the sort of life that they have to lead.
Yeah.
When he is tutoring Lucas on, yes, we're only going to do this once or twice, and it's going to be over, and you're going to feel lonely for a few weeks,
Yep.
and it'll feel really bad, but you'll get over it and you'll
move on.
meet somebody else, and
Yeah.
this will happen over and over again. And he genuinely convinced me that he had come to terms with this, and that he was happy with living his life. Well, not happy, content
Yeah.
to live his life that way.
He had accepted that this is the way it had to be.
Yeah.
And I think for him, there was no alternative. Like, I sometimes forget just the privileged position that we live in. Well, we've talked about this before, how in some ways we're living in the best world where, we have a certain amount of privilege, right? And part of me struggles sometimes, especially with films that are set in the past, where I'm just like, I don't understand. Why can't these guys just be together if they want to be together? And then you're like, oh, right. Because the idea of these men actually embarking on a relationship and being out, like, you can't just say, oh, okay, well, I'll just tell people and it'll be fine. And it's like, no, it's not that easy.
No, and as they point out in interviews, actually, we are backsliding now. So this is a
Well, yeah.
timely warning about where we could be headed,
Oh, sure.
and how bad it was, and how inhumane it is, because it does give you a strong sense of empathy while you're watching the movie. You do really feel for these guys,
Yeah.
particularly Lucas. I think it's a marvelous performance, even if it is somewhat hampered by some of the aesthetic choices of the director.
Yes. Okay, let me co-sign with you. I do think that the strongest aspect of this film is the two central performances. I think that Blythe and Tovey are doing great work. I actually think they have great chemistry. All of their scenes together are pretty electric. Not gonna lie, Chili Peppers, good times. I have some qualms, but overall I was like, yeah, boys, let's get down to it. Let's go to the greenhouse, etc. For sure. Oh boy. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about the way that this is visualized. So, as we mentioned, this is a first time feature from Carmen Emmi, and One of the conceits is that I think, especially when Lucas gets flustered, when he starts to engage in behavior that he knows could get him into trouble, when he needs to escape mentally, the perspective shifts to like a digital camcorder look. And apparently, Emmy was doing this all the time on set. Like, these weren't always scripted moments, they weren't always in character, the actors weren't always in costumes. It was just kind of a bit of a like cinema verite, fly on the wall. Like, I'm just capturing a bunch of B-roll footage, and sometimes it made it into the film. And I fucking hate it. I think other people appreciated it. I do have a friend who reviewed it, really enjoys this film, and said that this is almost like a dissociative element, right? So it's almost a barrier that you can put up to protect yourself. So this isn't my life, I'm watching it. This is like a memory I'm seeing unfold on screen. And I appreciate it as a storytelling technique. I appreciate the experimental nature of it. When it happens more than about 2 or 3 times, I started to grate, and I actively started to dislike it, and it started to take me out of the film, and I didn't like it anymore.
No, and I felt similarly. I don't think it tore me out of the movie. I was still quite entranced by the drama and quite sucked in.
Okay.
But I did wince every time we had a pointed zooming in high 8 video close up of somebody looking accusingly at the
Yeah.
main character,
Yeah.
because it just felt a little bit art student obvious, to be honest.
Yes. So I ended up watching this with my husband, who watches a lot of stuff, but he's, he wouldn't consider himself a scholar. He doesn't know film terminology. And every time it happened, he would just look at me and be like, this isn't working. Why isn't this working? How come this isn't connecting? And I was just like, yeah, because it's deliberately confronting. And maybe that's the point. Like, maybe it's to help you realize this almost feels like a separate character or a separate point of view, because this isn't like Lucas isn't able to engage with his real life in this way, right? Like, there's a distance. And again, I appreciate it in theory, but as a narrative film, after a couple of times, I just think it loses all of its power and it becomes a distraction.
Yeah, it really does. It's unfortunate. There's far too much of it. Apparently, he was shooting it this way. Well, he did it as a proof of concept before he got the funding to make the feature. And then he was
Okay.
doing it while he was shooting. And he always said that he didn't know how much, if any, of it would go into the film. And then during the editing period, more and more and more of it got into the movie. And I thought, gosh, I wish you had a stronger editor in the room going, no.
Right? Because here's the thing, I don't think you need it. I don't think
No.
it actually, after a while, I think it fails to accomplish what it's actually intended to do. But then also, the other parts of the film, the more quote unquote conventionally shot parts of the film, are working. So it's like, oh, well, here's a section of the film that needs to be jettisoned because the other parts just remind you the film is stronger without it.
Yeah, I think you could have used it as a stylistic choice judiciously here and there
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
achieve a specific aim. Maybe during the sting operations, for example, it could be used as a sense of voyeurism or being watched of surveillance footage, for example. You could
Yeah.
use it there. When it appeared elsewhere throughout the movie, it just, yeah, distract me. It didn't quite pull me completely out, but it did distract me.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How much further do we want to go before we maybe get into some spoilery territory? Do you have anything else that main feed cheapies can hear?
What a strange way of characterizing our listeners.
No, we love you for listening, folks.
We
It's just
do.
more, yeah, we keep some of the good, juicy stuff behind the paywall because we're not doing this out of the goodness of our heart. We're trying to cover a few costs.
I think the only thing I have left to talk about is all of the sexy stuff and the ending, so I think we will keep it there. But ultimately, would I recommend this movie? I think so.
Yeah.
I think I would.
Yeah.
It's a solid debut. It's a solid pair of leading performances.
Yeah.
Also, a shout out to Amy Forsyth, who is playing Emily, who is Lucas's.
The beard.
Yeah, bless her. And she is the saintly beard. She is the beard who will not only accept him for who he is, but will also support him and embrace him and weep for him throughout.
Yep. Yeah.
These poor women,
These
honestly.
characters who are just like, ugh, these men finding themselves, but why do I also have to be roadkill on the destination?
Exactly. I have no desires of my own. There needs to be a special phrase for these, not just beards, but instead of pixie dream girl, it's
Hmm,
saintly beard girl. I don't know. Am I coining a
right.
phrase there? Because they do have absolutely no goals other than allowing the man to actualize themselves, which is really irritating.
Yeah.
But she's great at it, and some of
Oh,
the
yeah.
best scenes are between the two of them.
Yeah, same as the mom, Maria Dizia, who provides a lot of warmth. But obviously, Lucas can't be entirely forthcoming with her because he is keeping fully, like, whole sections of his life private.
Yes, it seems to be that coming out to her is the major barrier towards him living
Yeah,
proudly as a gay man. But he will dance around with her in the kitchen in a way that should really be telling her something.
he's a little light on his feet. Yeah. No, I actually found a lot to relate to in that moment because I thought, I feel like I probably did something similar like that with my mother. You know, like I'll be in the kitchen with her, we'll be cooking or something, and then a song comes on. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's the thing, right? So much of the film feels very authentic. Like, I think there's a lot of relatability to Lucas's struggle. And, well, it's not the freshest story. I think it is being well executed. And by virtue of the two performances, it's really easy to get sucked into all of this. And then you're right, there's that almost genre level tension of knowing Lucas is probably going to get caught doing something, and how bad is it going to be? Like, how fucked up is this going to become?
Yeah, and it escalates to a scene that is scored by Emily Wells, the composer, almost like a Bernard Herrmann scored Hitchcock scene of
Hmm.
tension,
Yeah.
which is really nail biting stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I enjoyed it. I found it entertaining, and despite some of the formal awkwardness, I was still sucked into it.
Yes, agreed. And this is a film that has only just come out this year. So if you can't catch it in theaters, it may now be on VOD. But yeah, it is worth checking out. And I like that we're still making movies that feel like they are of a specific time, but then they have a timeliness to them as well. And I think we can talk about that or unpack that in greater detail over on Patreon. So, yes, if you want to hear more, if you want to hear about the chili pepper, the sexy bits, and other stuff, please do join us. It's patreon.com/thequeergaze. You can also hit us up on social media at the Queer Gaze, or you can shoot us an email at thequeergazeshow@gmail.com. And if you're not going to follow us over to Patreon, then you can just look for us in a couple of weeks as cruising continues with cruising, because Conrad has never seen it. So we'll travel even further back in time, but we'll stick in New York, and we'll bring in Al Pacino into the mix.
I can't wait.